containers that we repurpose, we broker them right off of the docks. We have the structural integrity of steel, and we are recycling something that is not going to be repurposed. There is a sustainability component to our buildings, and there's a real true need and the solution that we have. We all know we're in a massive housing crisis. I can build you a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in about 6 to 8 weeks. We're like Legos, and we're modular. They're made to stack 9 high, made to stack across, and we build the code, but it's not going to be a rusty old box.
Welcome to another episode of the Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm Tom Shellcross. With me as always is Mark Ainley. Well, here's the deal. Mark is absolutely in this episode. He is not here for the introduction. So here's what went down. This is a great episode that we recorded in Buffalo Grove at SI Container Build. We always do the intro for these live ones after the fact. We did that, and somehow we go to get everything put together, and our intro is missing. So not sure what happened, and we're scrambling to get it done. And Mark is fishing this week, so he's not able to join us from a boat. So our only logical conclusion is we believe Joe Smazel broke into our studio, stole the intro because he's obviously trying to take us down. And for those who don't know, this is definitely a joke. For those who don't know Joe, he's a friend of the podcast, and he hosts the Real Estate Chicago Style podcast, and you should give it a listen. So anyways, you get the intro of just myself, and then we'll have everyone live from Buffalo Grove for the remainder of the episode. But today's episode is awesome. We appreciate the hospitality. Mark and I were like little kids on a field trip. There's just so many cool things SI Container Build is doing. From an outsider looking into it, it looks like a very, very fulfilling work. To give you guys some examples, you can check this all out on their website. But Rory walked us around. She showed us different pods that they were building. Just gave examples of past ones. To give you guys just some flavors, there's the She Care Wellness pods at Alabama State University. This was covered on The View, on the Today Show, and obviously now on Straight Up Chicago. This project goes to providing free mental health therapy sessions, workshops, seminars, and they built out all the infrastructure for this. And when you're on The View, you're on the Today Show. That you're doing like real work that the world is noticing. We recorded the episode for those watching the actual video component of this in front of the Navy Pier Marina. And that's now at Navy Pier, which is really awesome. We got to, you see it in our episode, and then 6 weeks later, it's there. So if you go to visit Navy Pier, you have friends coming into town doing the whole tourist thing, you go check that out. That was featured in the Sun Times and on WGN News. And there's also just so many other examples. They do small pods too. So think about, you need something for construction site, employee housing, office pods, you name it, they do it. It's all built off-site in Buffalo Grove. Typical project takes, I believe it said 8 to 12 weeks to build, complying with all local building codes, very adaptable for, the different community uses. So really cool. If you're a developer, reach out to Rory. She's more than happy to have a conversation. If there's anything that you guys, think you can collaborate on, I'll give the public service announcement. Affordable housing is a very serious issue, right? We know that, we talk about it on the show all the time. It's also a very complex problem. There's not going to be one magic bullet that will solve it. And the government's not going to be able to solve it either, right? It needs, they're not going to be able to regulate their way into providing affordable housing. It needs to be both private and public sectors working together. And it's going to be thinking out of the box, thinking creatively. And this could be one of those solutions. So, all right. I get to do the housing provider tip. I have never done one of these. So this is probably how Mark feels when he gets to do the welcome. So I'm going to hit on move-out procedures. So move-out procedures, moving is stressful for your tenants, right? So come in with that mindset. Just make your expectations clear and simple. You don't need them to go beyond and above, just fair and simple. When you find out a tenant is moving out, say, hey, congrats, and then remind them of their expectations for the move out. Typically that's, hey, you need to be out by, noon on the last day of the lease, so we can get our crews in. Don't leave anything behind. This is where you leave the keys. Send me your new address so I can forward your mail. Whatever your procedure is, communicate that. And I say remind them because I tell them also when they move in. Because when they move in, your team has just turned it over. It's clean. It looks awesome. And say, hey, we're able to do this because, the previous tenant got out at noon yesterday and we were able to come in and work like crazy over the last 12 hours. And here are your keys and here we go. Just make sure you're actually communicating this. Yes, have these expectations spelled out in the lease, But it's not a good look for you to say, well, you should know that because page 7 of your lease, like your tenant has not looked at the lease since they signed it, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? So even though you might be legally correct, be human here and just communicate and set those expectations so there's no surprises either way. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. Hopefully Mark's nodding his head saying, yep, I agree with that housing provider tip. And I'm excited to see what his expectations are for that. All right. Our guest today, founder of SI Container Builds, has a background in social work. We originally interviewed Rory on episode 283. So if you found this episode interesting, please go back as we really cover the 101 of container builds. We dive into some specific numbers. And you can also, like I said, reach out to her directly. So episode 283, we'll also have Rory's contact info in the show notes. She's more than happy to help. Without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to us at the SI Container Build Warehouse out in Buffalo Grove.
All right, Rory, welcome.
Hi.
Actually, thank you for having us out.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Welcome to the factory.
This is amazing. This is our first time we've actually gone into somebody's business, and we've been to some networking events, but this is the first time into someone else's business. And it was just about 14, 15 months ago that you came on, and we did it via Zoom, and you introduced your company to us. And we've been amazed, and we've been telling everybody about it since. And we connected again, and I'm so happy that we talked about it on the show, because I listened to the show. We talked about actually coming out here, and at the time I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And it wasn't too confident, but then after the show, I really got excited about it, and I'm just so happy we're here. So.
Well, and there's cool projects to talk about, so that
Oh
makes
my
a big
gosh.
difference.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's jump in right there. So, right behind us, this is going to be at Navy Pier.
We'll start
I'm
here.
going to take my kids and see this.
Anyone that's listening to this right now has to go on the YouTube video to be able to see what's in the background here. I think this is very amazing. This show will not do justice via iTunes today.
Yeah. If you're driving, go ahead and don't put up the screen right now. Like, you can save that for later.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, all right. So when we last spoke, I guess let's take a step back, right? We had you on episode 283. So anyone looking to just get an idea of what we're talking about, we gave a little, the 101 on containers in that episode. But let's do a quick recap there. One, container, I don't want to live in a rusty
Rusty old box.
Yes, just
Hot box, too cold. All the things that I get every single day. I spend a lot of time convincing people until they actually see it that they're
Yes.
not living in a rusty old box.
So give us maybe that 2 or 3 minute, I don't want to say pitch, but just, you have to combat these objections
Yeah.
all the time. Let's get this to the high level there. And we'll
Sure.
roll.
So started the business because we really did believe that there is a sustainability component to our building, and there's a real true need and the solution that we have to the need. And so ultimately, the containers that we repurpose, we broker them right off of the docks, so we know what they come in with. They are one-trip containers typically, so we use them for residential, commercial, and industrial type style builds. And we build the code. And so what that means is everything inside is by licensed trade, like electrical, plumbing, HVAC, all of that. And so when you're walking in, it's going to feel like a home, or it's going to feel like a boater's amenity lounge, but it's not going to be a rusty old box. And on the outside, we can clad it to match the environment. So for example, my office that I had in my backyard was cladded to match my 100-year-old English stucco home. So now you don't even realize it's a container. And so that makes it, but we have the structural integrity of steel, and we are recycling something that is not going to be repurposed or shipped back overseas. And there's millions and millions of them sitting around.
Yeah. And to be clear, these things, they're not sitting in a graveyard that have been there for 15, 20 years. Like, this is one ship over, what has been on there.
Yes. So there is a plaque on every single container that we know how to read. And since 2016, there's a lot of regulation to make sure that you know how to read the plaque, so you know what the manifest that comes over, retail goods versus hazardous waste. And then since 2018, containers have actually been legally allowed to be repurposed in the ICC codes for residential and commercial use, but people don't really realize that. And so, other countries have been doing this for decades, and we're just a little bit slower to the draw here.
What would you say is the biggest objection you get?
The rusty old box concept, a
Yeah.
hot box. just the feeling I'm going to be in a trapped kind of container feel. I would say that that's how people think until they realize that we're like Legos and we're modular and we're able to stack. They're made to stack 9 high, so multifamily apartment buildings made to stack across. And so those are the kinds of things that until people see it or see some of the work that we've done, I would say that's my number one issue.
Yep. We have a lot of investors listening, so they're probably like, all right, well, how can I benefit? What happens? How would this be good for me? What can you talk to us a little about? You're discussing, you have a three bed, 2 bath kind of layout. It's 950-ish square feet.
Yep, 960.
Talk through that, talk through costs, talk through like the actual product.
Yeah, so we tried to look at, we have different solutions for different people. We don't work with one-to-one clients anymore. So we will only work with a developer or a nonprofit or a commercial entity so that we can actually build to scale. We're saving time and money by building out in this factory. We have people that are building. I can build you a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in about 6 to 8 weeks. So right then and there, I'm being able to give you something that we all know we're in a massive housing crisis, and I can do that cheaper than a traditional build because I'm able to build in more bulk. So my materials are a little bit less expensive. My labor becomes a little bit less expensive.
Yep, and we can cut this if you'd like, but do you give some price guidance there just so our listeners?
Yeah, I'm happy to give prices. It does vary because we like to do price points. So when we're talking to a developer, for example, we're doing a big development out in the Boston, Massachusetts area where we're going to do 12 townhomes, and that price point will drop because she's doing 12 repeated projects, but our 1-bedroom unit is around $85,000. Our 2-bedroom unit is about $175,000. Our 3-bedroom unit tends to be about $240,000 as a building envelope.
Yeah, so someone can add it, if the city of Chicago allowed, you can add an ADU, you can add one of these in the back of your property for under $100,000.
Yeah, totally, all in with the foundation, your hookups, because those are kinds of things that it is a little bit of an addition, but overall you should be able to get a unit and provide someone with a roof over their head for well under $100,000.
So the townhome development in Boston, is that all being built here?
Yeah.
So that's amazing, right here in Buffalo Grove.
Yeah.
And you guys, how do you get it from here?
So I'm really actually glad that you said that, because I just said this to Tom, is we spend actually more of our time outside of Illinois in the Chicago area than we are right now inside. It seems to be more receptive in other parts of the country. And because we fit right on flatbed trucks, like this building that's behind you, it's 12 containers, it's fully built. We're gonna deassemble it, put it on trucks, it's gonna go down, and we're gonna reassemble it, weld it together. And so it makes it easy.
So this is on the same bed as like a rail truck.
The trucks that you see them all the time now because we're talking about it. You're like, oh, there's a container. And honestly, that's so easy because that's what they're made to fit on, a rail or a flatbed.
Yeah. Wow. Chicago is a huge affordability issue. Like, have you had these conversations with, Department of Buildings? Like, this seems like an easy solution. We were talking off air, those lots on the south side, you can give them away, like, no one's going to build because the ARVs, the home values are not worth building a new home from the ground up.
Yeah.
West side too, is that specific?
Like it's just
South.
Yeah, I have started to have these conversations with some senior leader people that are now more interested. I had one recently where I had the same issue. I don't think that the group of people that we would house would want to live in a container. And to me, that's still so very shocking because I won't build anything that I wouldn't want to live in. And now I'm giving you a Core 10 steel structure that's going to outlive most of our steel frame homes. We have a paint that we talked about briefly. We have neighbors that were allowing us to use their machine where we painted a piece of the steel and we put it in the machine, and we were able to track that piece of paint had 20 years without any kind of maintenance for any kind of weather. So they were able to do that. I'm like, I have lower maintenance. These are the things that finally the city is starting to understand. I think Navy Pier will make a difference. They're building, all the city inspectors are coming up at the same time to come up to look at Navy Pier. So that will help, cool. So they can see it.
The comparison that shocked me was, you said all of our downtown skyscrapers, they're all made of steel. And you think about all these stick-built buildings, they're all wood, they're all, water can warp them, they can do all these things, but our 60, 70 story high buildings are all steel. And these are steel and they're only 1 story.
Right, for sure.
So you think about the strength there, like,
People don't think about that. They
Yeah.
just say, oh, rusty old box. No, I'm Corten steel. We're repainting it. We're cladding it. We're doing everything that you would want to have it to blend in. But people, it's just slow. It's something that other parts of the country have just embraced. We're starting to get there. You know, we're partnering with Lake County's Habitat for Humanity to do their first build in North Chicago. We had the whole North Chicago team come and sit with us, including people like the fire marshal, so that they could get an understanding. We're doing a 6,400 group home that's being sponsored by DCFS and run by HODC. Richard Koenig was on your show.
Okay.
It's Richard's project, and then Shelter Inc. will be running that facility in Palatine. So they're getting there. They're starting to realize we're here, we're licensed and certified, we build the code. So there's nothing in there that is surprising or weird.
Yeah. Talk about that Palatine development real quick, because just the effect it's having it's a very good story.
Yeah, you know, I think that the more I learn about what Shelter, the nonprofit, deals with in terms of girls that have been trafficked, Illinois doesn't have anything for them. And so girls that are as young as 12 years old that are on the streets will sleep on their social workers' floors. And so this will provide them the opportunity to have a safe space. It's a beautiful home. I hope that you'll put some pictures up of it. It's 20 containers, and you can't tell it's a container. And so ultimately, it's going to give these girls a shelter that they will be able to have and tell that they're fostered or provided another safe haven.
I got a picture of the 20 containers out there and the rendering, so I'm definitely going to be posting that.
Awesome. Yeah, please. Because you can see it starts like that
Yes, yes.
ends like
That's
that
the amazing
picture.
part.
Yeah. People just, it's hard. People have a hard time seeing it in their head. Once they can touch it, feel it, walk through it, it makes a big difference.
Yep. When did the company actually start? What year?
End of 2018. And we've done a couple pivots since. So 2018 started the company where we were building on site and actually out of state. COVID hit, we started to look at backyard spaces and dealing with the whole ADU, and that we don't want to get into all of that, but that's slowly evolving in Chicago, which is great. And then High Park Angels was our lead investor group, and they got us into our factory almost 3 years ago now. And so that made a big difference because now we can build to scale. We can keep our material costs lower. We can make sure that we're providing work in an environment that people enjoy being in all year round.
Yep. And then, so you have your workers here, and we met some of them.
Mm-hmm.
This goes and gets shipped out. Are they going out? Who's going out to Boston, or is that a GC out there? That developer is then going to put it together.
So the developer for each project, it could be a little different. We are GCs on many of our projects that are more local, and that would include parts of Wisconsin and parts of Michigan because it's easy for us to get there. However, we will partner with other GCs on site. So the developer we're working with in Boston, she has a team that will be the set and stitch crew and do the finishing work of the containers on site.
Okay.
That was her choice. And that's all about costing for a developer. It was less expensive for her to use her team out there than for us to go out there. But we could do either way.
Okay. Besides coming back, having this beautiful facility, what is maybe some of the other pivots or lessons learned, right? You've been doing this for 7 years. I'm sure you guys are much better today than you were 7 years ago.
Yeah. I always say, because people will contact me and talk about, should I start a modular factory? That would be great. We need more. However, it's really complicated. I would say my background isn't building. My dad was an architect, and it's great to have been raised in that environment. But I have more of a business background. But my first background was actually clinical social work. So tying in the kinds of buildings we're building is that tie piece. But what I have learned that it takes a whole heck of a lot more time, skill, and money to really start a factory that you are doing things correctly. People can say, I'm just going to look on YouTube and I'm going to build out a container. Well, now you're not building to code. We have fixed many a time people's mistakes of building. It's a skill set. And so it's learning who to have in your facility that can do the things correctly. And that's a big learning for us.
Yeah.
When you were on the episode last, there was no shortage of containers. Is that still the case?
It's a great question. And obviously we talk about if things are going to be changing with tariffs and any kinds of imports. Right now, we are not struggling because there are so many of them, and we know how to repurpose and where to find them. We work with brokers all over the country, and so that makes a big difference for us. And we're in a port city in Chicago, so that's very helpful. Will it change and it will get a little bit more competitive or a little bit more expensive? Maybe. I mean, right now, steel is a commodity, so it's on the stock market. So people will often ask me, how much does a 40-foot container cost? And it costs roughly around between $5,000 and $7,000. Will that increase? Maybe a little bit, but still, there's enough. There's enough.
Yeah. Well, you were saying if something gets shipped from China here, it's cheaper just to let it die than to ship it back. It's cheaper for them to make another one than to send it back.
Yeah.
I've told everybody about that.
That's insane.
Like that fact is like the best thing that came out of that episode. I've been telling everybody.
It's crazy. Well, you'll drive down like 294 is my favorite because right by O'Hare,
Franklin Park over there.
yes, stacks of containers, and
But you
people
can't
think
touch
they're
those, right? Because those
storied.
have been there for.
Well, I would have to check the plate to see what it was. I wouldn't just be taking anything. I mean, they might have some over there. We haven't needed to because our brokers have been good, but people think that people are storing things in those containers. No, there's nothing stored there. They're just stacking them. They have no place for them. It's a container graveyard.
It's my kid's favorite part about going down 294.
Yep.
They're the containers, and you see them on the trucks, and all of that. We're just in a country that has so much of this resource. Why not recycle it? And I wish I could say I invented this and this is cool and unique and new, but really other countries have been doing this for decades really successfully.
What are there good examples out there of, the 9-story high rise, whether you guys have done it or just taken from elsewhere in the country or elsewhere in the world? Like, what are some of the more elaborate ones? Like, this is awesome here. Like, this is very impressive.
This is cool, but that's just 2 stories.
Yeah.
So Nashville, San Diego, Los Angeles, there's one in Florida. There's one, I think there's one in North Carolina of multifamily, 5-6 stories. There's a hotel in London that's stacked with containers, multiple high. There's stadiums that were made stacked high of multiple containers. So they're really all over the place. It's that I can show these examples. I'll definitely give you guys some examples so that you can see. You would be surprised you have actually seen container developments. And I'm not talking about the kitschy ones that Las Vegas has or Toronto has, where it's like a really cool pop-up kind of community. Those are fun too. But these are really cool multifamily homes that look like a multifamily home instead of an actual container development.
Yeah, well, you walked us through one of the units there. We have quartz countertops, washer dryer in the unit. Like,
You would never know.
legit.
You would never know you're on the inside of it. Like, that's the most amazing part, and that's what I was trying to capture when I was taking videos.
9-foot ceilings too. Like, that's
We use
60%
the
Chicago is 8
space,
foot.
yeah.
right? Well, Chicago, we think of a city. We're narrow, so we fit on lots. We use our high ceilings for storage. Our homes that we typically live in, dead space, corners, hallways, all kinds of stuff we never really use. We use everything, and our designs use everything so that we just make it most of what we have.
What about subdivisions? We talk about kind of the multi-unit, like where you get to the edge of the city or edge of these larger cities, or just out in the rural area around the country. Like, there's a lot of land and it's cheap.
Yeah.
Are they subdivisions that have gone up? Anything you're working on with
The
that?
one in Boston will be a subdivision. It's right on the rail, so people we're actually trying to make it really non-car friendly in the sense the cars will be on the outside of the development. They'll be able to use the rail, so there's a lot of sustainability around that. That will be a sub. We're working on one in Wisconsin right now. Will be a multi-sub development. So it's perfect for that. And you can tweak it to make things look a little different floor plans, because I know everybody likes to customize things. So there are ways to customize this so that you feel like it's your own or making it a little different.
And I was thinking about the benefit, if you're going to do like a subdivision or a building, you're not bringing gas to it, right? These are all 100%
We don't
electric.
do all electric.
So that's just one huge cost. You gotta provide water, unfortunately. But,
Of course. We'd love to be able to be
You gotta-
off-grid in the solar. And if we could find a solar company, hint, out there, that really wants to partner with us, that saves some of the cost about solar, I would love to make all of my units solar ready.
Yeah. In some of these developments that you've done, I know you guys aren't necessarily there on the back end, but is there anything good or bad from the insurance perspective?
That's a good question. People often ask me here, in the beginning, it was very hard. How do I get this insured? How do
Yeah,
I
it's
find
new, no
comps
lots
that are going to be able, we talk about that because it's really no different. It's just steel. And now it's getting better. Now I know that there are insurance companies that will there'll be banks that will mortgage these. It's getting better and it's getting easier.
And they'll bank them 30-year mortgage.
Same
insure
kind
them,
of,
like,
yes.
Like, will State Farm, are they doing that?
Actually, State Farm does do that. That's one that does.
I did hear
One
that.
of our
Mhm.
sponsors.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Good plug for them. Not everybody will do it. Not everyone's comfortable yet. but it's getting the word out so that people can get more comfortable. I really am not building any different than any other new development. I have to build the code. So I'm using the same that you are. I'm following the same R values in my floors and my ceilings. I'm using countertops and all the things that everyone else is using at the highest level that I can use with the cost savings.
Yeah. All right, so we're recording this in mid-April. By the time this airs, it'll be mid-May. This behind us, this will be in Navy Pier on the water.
At the end of May.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so that is the Borders Amenity Building. It's privately developed by Randy Podolsky and the Marina Group, and it will be the first transient marina Chicago has ever seen, and this will be the building that will be associated.
So you can pull up your boat from
Michigan, Wisconsin, and rent a slip. It's really cool.
And how far are we from the Ferris wheel?
Oh my gosh, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is going to be built on the water, but literally it's off of Navy Pier.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So cool. What else you got? I'm trying to figure out ways to make this work. In my head, in the back of my head, I'm like, these are all great use cases. And I'm selfishly like, all right, how can this one, how can this pencil? And two, how can you use this to solve the affordability issue?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think about the suburbs right now. Like, they're not building single family homes for less than 2,800 square feet and 450,000.
Right.
Because you have to pencil. I'm not even
Yes.
mad at the developer.
No,
no,
you
it's
can't
terrible.
build a 1,500 square foot home.
they're
Like,
doing it
doesn't-
because of economic conditions or the
Yeah.
Absolutely.
necessary. So it's like, I think about that. I don't know. Like, there's just something out there that you could do. You take 40 acres and think about it. You don't have to have a tradition. So there's a lot of subdivisions end up being 7,000 or 8,000 square feet, like the cookie cutter subdivisions out there in the suburbs. You can even have a smaller, because you have a smaller footprint. Even if you have two containers, you should have a smaller footprint altogether.
It's a smaller footprint, but it's still the use of space. I'll have everything
No,
in
I
that.
agree. So you can have a smaller lot. So you can actually I don't know, you should put more in a subdivision.
Density-wise.
And then you have a pool house here that you built out, so you could actually use one for the pool house, or
Yeah.
the clubhouse, the community house.
Absolutely.
so
Well,
you-
and that's what the development in Wisconsin, they'll have a gym. We work with Taraji Henson's foundation to put wellness pods, yoga studios, gyms, all of those things you can do out of a container. Coffee shops, pop-ups. It's really fun.
If we have you back on in a year from now, what are you hoping to tell us happen between now and then?
I'm hoping that I don't have to have the same conversation where I have to explain to people why I'm using a shipping container and why it's not a rusty old box. That would be my wonderful goal if I could have Chicago adopt this, because I am a solution, but there is so much need that I feel like there's other people out there. And if you want a stick frame house, that's fine. You want a different kind of modular house, that's fine. Count us in as a solution, because I know my structures are going to outlive most of the stuff we're already living in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So wrap.
Ready to wrap?
Let's do it.
All right. What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this while so many other people, like you said, wish they could?
I think getting into a factory, having the initial funding from High Park Angels was very helpful. Having a great team and just digging in, because running a startup, I don't feel like a startup anymore. I feel like we're teenagers, and it really makes a big difference. You got to dig in hard.
All right. What is one piece of advice you would tell someone that's yet to buy their first property in Chicago?
Look at modular. We're faster and we're cheaper, and we can build something that is going to outlive something that you might not have. So if you're looking at new construction, think about the fact that I can build something a whole heck of a lot faster and get you in your home, or having it rented for you a lot faster.
5 to 6 weeks is insane.
Think about someone with a lot and a half right now could have one of these on there. That's huge.
Yeah.
Building generational wealth too. I think we talked about this. I would love to be able to, if we're going to build new construction, to have a mandatory ADU in the back, because now you're already building in wealth, and then you can roll that into your mortgage and have it.
And that subdivision idea. I
Yeah.
like that. All right. What do you do for fun these days besides grind?
Oh, I love to play golf when I can. I like to see my friends. My son I'm going to be an empty nester soon, so we're just trying to spend as much time with him as possible. I have a daughter already in college, so lots of family time.
Congrats on that.
All right. What is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity you recommend to our
That
listeners?
is so funny that you asked this, because I just picked up, because my husband, when he wants to reread something, he reads The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. And I had just picked that up, and I thought it's just a grounding book. And sometimes you just need something that grounds you. So that would be the book that I am reading.
All right.
All right. Other than yourself, what's a valuable resource for other Chicago real estate investors, or who's a valuable resource?
Oh, I got a I gotta ping Tim Swanson. He is, in my opinion, one of my favorite humans that's also doing modular work in Chicago. So a real shout out to him. And people like Richard Koenig, who is a wonderful nonprofit developer in the Chicago area. These are peers and colleagues, and I really appreciate them very much.
All right. Rory, thank you so much. Thanks for having us here. This has
Love having
been
you
a great
guys.
afternoon. How can our listeners learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
Yeah, so you can email me directly, my name, RORY, at SICBS.com. SI actually stands for Sustainable Imprints. So SICBS.com or SIContainerbuilds.com is their website. And I'm looking, people who are wanting to build multiple units and really want to build some of that in Chicago, helping people put roofs over their heads.
All right, listeners, there's so much opportunity out there with this.
Someone smarter than us figure this out.
Yes, that's what we said earlier. We said we do the show so you guys can hear this information and you can apply this somewhere, or we all got a guy in Chicago, like who's that guy that's going to get this, help this get pushed through to be able to help on affordable housing.
Yep. All right, good stuff. Chicago
Thank
Facts.
you.
Who are we playing for? Who's our sponsor?
Today's sponsor is Be Back Das Law. I got to adjust my glasses that aren't really for seeing, but we're playing today for Matt Leshe, I'm not sure, but Matt L. If you get this, if myself or Rory get this question right, you get a $50 gift card brought to you by Be Back Das from Das Law.
All right, we're in Buffalo Grove, so the question is, which famous actor spent his childhood here in Buffalo Grove? And your options are Vince Vaughn, Bernie Mac, Bill Murray, Harrison Ford.
I'm going to go with Bill Murray.
I'll say Harrison Ford went to Maine West.
Oh, he did. I didn't know he was a Chicago boy.
Yeah.
I know Vince Vaughn is up in Lake Forest now, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know.
I'll go with Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn, who are you going with?
I said Bill Murray.
It's Vince Vaughn.
Oh, nice job.
All right. All right, that's awesome.
Thank
That's
you,
a good
Wikipedia, for this information.
All right.
That's awesome.
All right, Matt.
Proud sponsors of the show.
Yes, Matt, you get a $50 gift card brought to you by Be Back Das and Das Law. Well, Rory, thank you for having us out here. It's amazing. I took so much video. Listeners, you'll be able to check out everything I pieced together in between my Mark Ainley REI Instagram, or everything we'll put out there on LinkedIn, and we'll definitely tag you. And this is such a beautiful.
You're going to see this. I'm going to have you guys come down when it's open.
Oh, this is beautiful, and I can't wait to get the real pictures after for the home that we're gonna have. That you're gonna have.
Oh
like,
yeah,
that'd
the
be awesome.
group
real
shelter,
one. So,
absolutely.
The group shelter. So
yes,
listeners, if you want to learn more, please, like I said, if you have somebody, share this information. This is an awesome product. We talk about affordable housing dozens of times a year on the show, and it's obviously a problem. And this is one of those solutions that if we could put the pieces together, this could be huge. So, Rory, thank you. Tom, thank you. Listeners, we will see you next week.